finally cozy. Hi, Doc. I've got another story for you today. I figured the last one was a bit dark, so I'd like to lighten it up a little bit with a bit of humor, or my attempt at it. So the next story is going to be dealing and tackling an issue of something that we all deal with at one time or another in our lives. Oh Lord, please tell me other people deal with this at one time or another in their lives. Let's jump right into it. This story is called Fear of Farts. Now, we all go through, as men and women, that awkward phase in every new relationship, the fear of farts phase. Too afraid to blast some ass gas onto our unsuspecting adorer in fear of being judged, being seen as lesser than. This fear had gripped me tighter than my cheeks had been during the entirety of my first relationship at the ripe age of 23. And today I can confidently admit that farts are what killed my first love. I'm not sure if it was the farting that killed the romance or if it was my insecurity to fart. You see, that insecurity dominated me, and no safe word would release me from it until I was inevitably dumped. It didn't just prevent me from doing something as natural as breathing, a different type of exhale, sure, but that insecurity seeped into every natural fucking thing I could think to do. I mean, things I didn't even realize I could be embarrassed about. Suddenly I was embarrassed about. And I took it out on my intestines. Since then, I've promised myself I would not let the judgment of a man whom I'd adore prevent me from committing chemical warfare after a heavy Denny's breakfast and a venti Starbucks latte. The pain of holding it all inside was worse than the pain of breaking up, to be quite fucking honest with you. And it's worse than a little bit of embarrassment if I had if I had just let it out and said, "Excuse me, it seems my Ass Blaster 9000 has misfired." You know? It's been years since, and I've come to wonder if I would have been embarrassed at all by it, because I have a particularly fond memory of mishandling this deadly weapon during the dead of night, and I wasn't filled with dread. Quite the opposite, in fact. I felt release. It was the first weekend I had spent at his house. Naturally, I was anxious already. I have struggled with insomnia my entire life, so sleeping in a new house with a man for the first time was already enough to silently lay awake at night, staring at the sparkling lights and anime posters that lined his bedroom walls. I was counting the snores of his roommate from across the hall when I had finally dozed off after fighting back stomach cramps and maneuvering my body in peculiar ways to keep this nuclear explosion trapped inside its vessel. And just as the world faded to black and a snore of my own had finally left my lips, that's when it happened. My body relaxed, and my blowhole blew, and fucking loud. I was calling out all the other farts that I had snuck out over the past couple of days home. It scared the absolute shit out of me. Instinctively, I ducked for cover, thinking it was the night North Korea had finally decided to get the ball rolling. I literally startled myself awake and gasped to myself, thinking, what just happened? And I wasn't the only one who thought this was the end. The roommate from across the hall had actually stopped snoring, and my boyfriend was suddenly as stiff as a board and ice cold. And I was rising in temperature. I was burning up. The fear had finally decided to show its dumb, stinky face. It took me a second to figure out what scared me awake before it clicked. And I'd mentioned earlier, if I had whatever been embarrassed to just, fart in front of him. And I don't think I would have been, because the second that I realized I had farted, I cackled like the Wicked Witch of the West. The second I snorted out my laugh, my ex's body shook like a shaky cartoon skeleton, his bony shoulders tensing while I tried to stifle giggles into his shirt. If the fart didn't scare him awake, my absolute joy did, and I laughed all fucking night. I woke up and I continued to laugh in the morning, and in the midst of my deepest and most catatonic depression, I laugh again at the memory. A deep belly laugh that fills the whole room, and I catch my stomach trying to catch a breath kind of laugh. Because that, my friend, is comedy fucking gold. To fart so loud in the dead of night that you wake up your boyfriend's roommate from across the hall and the neighbor's dogs start barking. This is my story on why we shouldn't be afraid to just be.